Do re-releases of vintage, very valuable vintage figures ruin the resale value? Well, we get to talk about it again because Hasbro is bringing back the Ecto Glow heroes. We'll talk about it on this episode of Geek Dad Life. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Geek Dad Life. My name is Jay Glatfelter here. Late morning, Eastern Standard, or I guess daylight savings time, or whatever the heck that is. But anyways, excited because we got new Ghostbuster toys coming, more Kenner classics, something that I know I have enjoyed. Hasbro putting out kind of re-releases of the vintage figures, and it's shocking that these are the ones they're going with, if I'm going to be completely honest, because it's such a deep cut. You know, there's other maybe more well-known ghost. Maybe not. Maybe these are the perfect ones. We'll talk about it all as we go through it here. Let me say hello to the chat. Thanks for people showing up, even when I was, post randomly during a weekday. We got shiny plastic people. I heard from the Ecto Glow Elite that value should still hold. I did send an invite out to Dolers this morning, but he's really busy with work. But you can hear his thoughts on last night's Toy Anxiety along with the Toy Anxiety crew. They talked about it last night. But yeah, it's exciting stuff. Derek Dalzell, I think re-upped as a GDL family member. So welcome. Hold on, let me get the Got Family button here.
I got family.
Welcome back, Derek. And then the Ryan Dole fan club member for 29 months.
I got family.
So thank you for being a part and rejoining the GDL family. Alpha Magnus, rip that resale market. We'll talk about that for sure. Joey Carell, Toy Manoids, Mr. Chris Specs is here. Big thanks to him. He got me or found the tape to my Talk Boy, or the branded Talk Boy blank tape, and gave it to me yesterday. I made a quick little video about it. I put on my socials and a short here on this channel. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Lone Star Galaxy, Collector Phil, Jamie Von, Jay Combs. Good morning. Good morning, Scott Baker. Yeah, so let's just jump into this thing. All right. Ecto Glow Heroes. I have one here, and it just so happens to be the one they aren't re-releasing. This was the last completed figure that I needed to go Ecto Glow complete a little while ago. I had everybody else up to this figure. But big thanks to Matt Bush, who sent me this one. This one is going to be an opener at some point. I kind of planned to do a video, and maybe now's the time to do it. And because I wanted this video series of opening up vintage toys and talking about them. And this one now, I guess, is maybe even more valuable than it was before, because they are re-releasing every Ecto Glow figure except for the Louis Tully, which should be fun. Chris Brown just joined the Patreon this week. Well, thank you for joining, Chris. Glad to have you as a part of it. But yeah, so let's talk about the news. It dropped yesterday. Hasbro polls. It's also our friends at YHS posted it as well. But before streaming, they're the OG streamers. Before glow ups, they were the Ecto Glow heroes. The real Ghostbusters Ecto Glow Heroes set arrives exclusively at San Diego Comic-Con 2025, featuring all 4 Ghostbusters with glow-in-the-dark deco, gear, and ghosts. Stay tuned for more info. Speak of the devil. Yes, have some. Good to see you, my friend. Craig, if you're free, you can jump on if you want. I'll send you a link. If you want to talk about it more, you already talked about it on your show yesterday. But I think it's exciting because outside of it's fascinating to me to see this journey of Ecto Glow heroes, because for me personally, I didn't even know they existed as a kid. Right. And I was Ghostbusters was my favorite thing, has always been kind of my favorite property. Real Ghostbusters is my favorite avenue of that property that I love the most. Those toys, I love them the most. And didn't know these existed. Right. To me, the slimed heroes were the last ones that I ever saw on retail shelves. I never saw an Ecto Glow hero on a retail shelf. It wasn't until the 90s and websites, GeoCities fan pages and stuff like that coming up. There was a little Ghostbusters website called Ghostbusters Action Figure Web. I think that was the website in the 90s, and I found it. And that guy, his name was Crispin, I think. His nickname was Ecto Glow, and he had pictures of these Ecto Glow hero figures. And I was like, oh my God, there were additional Ghostbusters figures that existed that I didn't know about. And it was just one of those like, oh my God, I need these figures. And back then, this is early days of eBay and stuff like that, these were kind of hard to find. But then something happened over the course of the late 90s or the 2000s into the early maybe 2010s. This was like the last wave of Ghostbuster figures. A lot of them didn't make it to toy shelves. A lot of them went straight to clearance in places, and a lot just sat as dead stock in a lot of places. And so then what started to happen was, people were finding like new old stock of these Ecto Glows. And I think it kind of, I don't want to say flooded the market, but it introduced a lot more into the market. And the price came down significantly. So, these were the hundreds of dollars in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then by mid to late 2000s, you could get Ecto Glow heroes on mint on card for like $35. And I bought a few back then. That's how cheap it was. And then over time, and I think even Craig alluded to this in yesterday's Toy Anxiety, especially post-pandemic, the perceived rarity of these kind of jacked up the price. It kind of went insane, where, a carded Ecto Glow figure could be, $400 or something like that. So throughout all of that, it's kind of wild that these very obscure, probably the most obscure out of all of the real Ghostbusters releases, are getting re-released as San Diego Comic-Con exclusives. And I personally, there's differing opinions about this, but as an Ecto Glow Elite member, I believe this is a great thing. I think it's a great thing because it stinks that these are so expensive that not everybody can have them, right? And they're really cool. Like that, they're so 90s with their deco. The glow in the dark feature is really cool, especially on a vintage Ghostbuster figure, or really any of that vintage, Kenner toys, that a lot of glow in the dark toys back then. And, if you missed out on it, or if you missed out on the boat to get the vintage ones for cheap, well, now you can get them. Now they're Comic-Con exclusive. That's a bit of a bummer. But I have a feeling these should be in ready supply. So aside from not having Louis Tully, you got all the figures you need, right? And they're going to be slightly different. I really don't foresee these affecting the value. I'll talk about that more in a second. But if you've wanted just to have Ecto Glow figures and not break the bank, well, now you have an option. And I think that's really, really cool. Let me check in on the chat. Since the first wave in the 80s as a kid and still stand by it, I only got the OGs and the rest were not for me. I totally understand. I kind of felt the same way to a certain extent, but I love the Power Pack heroes that kind of brought back the flight suits. But very like 90s deco. Collector Phil, this news made my day. Had lost hope Hasbro would do these figures. Nick Dillinger, their names being written on the jumpsuits was a little silly, but goes with it. Exactly. That's what I love about it. It's just so kind of over the top. Mr. Chris Becks, I think it's great. Now people can get them that wouldn't otherwise been able to, and people that already have them can open them and enjoy. Yeah, agreed. The more, the merrier is how I feel. Let's see, Jay, you were talking about the longest toy line. You guys forgot about Transformers. So sorry, Stanley's Toy Channel. You're right. That's been hanging around for a very long time. But yeah, this is what has me most excited. Because I agree, the one criticism I really agree with on this is just like, okay, well, can't you do something new, right? And the reason why, I mean, it makes sense. I'm assuming here. The reason why we're not getting a Louis Tully is that tooling hasn't been done for a Louis Tully, right? They had the tooling done for these 4 figures back when they re-released the first series figures. And so it probably wasn't that much extra work to, cast them in glow in the dark plastic and kind of repackage them, and boom, there you go. That was the intent of the last 3 waves of real Ghostbuster figures. They were just redoing the flight suit releases. They added a Louis Tully, they added a Janine Melnitz to Power Pack Heroes. They dropped Janine Melnitz for Slimed Heroes and Ecto Glow. So they didn't remake Louis for the first series, so it makes sense that he's not here. That being said, I think hopefully, and again, Hasbro hasn't done too much with the Ghostbusters license after Afterlife, but I would hope this is the start of doing more new things, right? Like give us an Ecto Glow Janine for the first time. That would be awesome, right? Toy Saurus, I think Toy Story Studios on Instagram, they kind of use that Power Pack Heroes Janine and cast their glow in the dark one before, and but I would love an official one. And give us the Ecto Glow Copter. I think I saw Video Power Gaming talk about that. Give us the Ecto Glow Copter. And if you're just reusing the first series molds, give us the God, what are they calling those? The last wave that never got released, the something pack, the big pack heroes, whatever they're calling them. It is Geek Deadmorn. Brandon, the names on the suits with the stripes makes me think of like racing suits, like a fire suit. It's pretty cool. Yeah, good point, Brandon. Good point. Let's see. Collector Phil, Hasbro has to know the whole community worldwide would instantly buy a RGB Firehouse. I'm sure, but it's big and it's expensive. And I'm sure there's some, opportunity cost for them to be like, how much would that cost to get to that? And do they want to take that on? It's a pretty big item. Where does it sit? It's not going to be on retail shelves. There's we're back to no Ghostbusters presence on retail shelves, so it'd have to be an exclusive on Hasbro Pulse. And would they be able to sell enough of them to warrant that MOQ, right? Like what would be their minimum order quantity that they would need to hit to like make it financially viable, right? Because you would need to tool a whole new play set. The Eternia was what, like 5,000 was the MOQ on that. So like, and that's a bigger play set, so maybe it wouldn't need to be as big, but maybe you need 5,000 to keep it under $100. That's the thing to think about with re-releasing the Firehouse, given that there's no retail space. Now, if they bring more Ecto Glows or they kind of reacquire some shelf space on retail shelves, then maybe you could see, I think, a Firehouse coming out. But I'd be shocked. I would be shocked. Mondo Ecto Glow Safubi Slimer. That'd be dope. That'd be really cool. Chris Bruno, stores don't want a Firehouse exclusive online. Exactly. So if it's exclusively online, that means it's going to be a little bit pricier than probably you'd want, and it would have to have some type of minimum order quantity attached to it. So that would be the thing, right? And that would be the toughie, right? So that is what is kind of holding it back, right? And that's why I don't think it'll happen. So it would be a HasLab, but is Hasbro going to want to use a HasLab slot for a Firehouse? I don't know. I don't work for Hasbro, so could be a cool question for them. They usually set up, at Comic-Con. They're very public. But anywho, yeah, I think it is something, just something of note. We'll see. I won't survive at retail. I want to push back on that a little bit because I feel like if Ghostbusters had, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm just a biased Ghostbusters fan, but if it had a line like Motu Origins or something that was like a fun toy line for kids and also captured the nostalgia for the grown-ups, I think it could hang around, right? Because kids still like the idea of Ghostbusters. But, and I'm not trying to harp on Hasbro and their approach, but they do not take the Mattel approach to toy shelves, right? And this is true, I think, of most of the Hasbro toy lines where, you know, X-Men 97, great show. I know there was release date issues and stuff like that, but the retail shelf present was very minimal for that. Versus say, you know, Jurassic Park. There hasn't been a Jurassic Park movie forever, but dinosaurs sell. It's cool. Kids dig it. And there's a whole bunch on the shelves. It's like, it takes up, you know, if there's a whole aisle of Target, it may take up like a quarter of that aisle, right? Or when that Buzz Lightyear movie came out, they took up a whole section. And so when Mattel is tapping into a toy line, and maybe they have more cachet or more pull than Hasbro, even. But I feel like if it had that level of dedication in the toy aisle, I think it could hang around. I think it could hang around. But that's just my opinion. Yes, have some. If I had a toy company, I would start a new Ghostbusters universe that had characters new and old from all iterations of the franchise, similar to what Motu. Exactly. Like there's even and again, I know this is anecdotal. Like I have children. It's Geek Dad life after all, but like they just Ghostbusters is a play, you know, or type of play that kids still dig today and they understand. And there's iconography and stuff that works. I just think they've had a tough time figuring out what to do with it, right? But just as a play mechanism, much like how like Motu, like even if kids don't like, you know, the cartoon or whatever, those like my kids still play with the Motu toys and the Castle Grayskull. There's just something to the toys themselves that just work fundamentally with kids even still today. And as Blake points out in Toy Collector Magazine, whenever and if and when that Netflix animated series comes out, that would, to my opinion, give a boost to Ghostbusters at retail. But again, Hasbro would have to like commit to a level, I think, more than they have, because out of the retailers that are putting toys on shelves now, and I know it's a very competitive. I'm not trying to like say they aren't trying or anything. You know, you have Marvel, which has a pretty solid section, and Star Wars, which has a pretty solid section, but they aren't on the same level as Jurassic Park, as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as, you know, the McFarlane DC section. They just don't, at least from my perspective, and I could be wrong, feel free in the chat to roast me or say I'm wrong, but they don't have that same, you know, all out presence on retail shelves like Mattel does, or even sometimes McFarlane does. But that's just my thoughts on that. I'm gonna stay contrarian here. If Netflix dropped one episode a week of Ghostbusters, yes, but they'll drop it all at once, so it won't last in the cultural zeitgeist like it did in the 80s. That's true for us that grew up with it that way, but for kids, if they like it, they'll just watch it over and over and over and over again. You know, at least it's for my kids. You know, they like Bluey, so they just watch Bluey episodes over and over and over again. Or there's a Netflix show that Zach got really into called Dino Trucks, and he watched Dino Trucks over and over and over and over again. They just have a different viewing habit than we did growing up. And does that change the way, you know, it is? Yes. Is it bad? I don't know. But it's just, it is different. Don't worry, we still talk about it on Sunday. I just want to get my thoughts out. It's so quick. I just wanted to get my immediate thoughts here. Michael Miller, my son's watched the entire run of Garfield more times than I can count. Gary, hell yeah. Dino Trucks. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure I'd love it. Thanks, Gary. That's great. Yes, has some enjoy your top 10 wish list for Mondo RGB. Any guys who you'd like with Janine? I think I saw another chat too saying, would Mondo do Ecto Glows? They've said explicitly like they can't play in the Kenner Hasbro sandbox, right? That's Hasbro's. I'm sure there's a million and one avenues Mondo has to get around to make sure they're not stepping on Hasbro's toes from like a master license holder perspective. So, you know, it's just I don't think we'll ever get those. They could do glow in the dark figures, but they wouldn't look like Ecto Glows. Never thought about that when you had 65 episodes each season, but Netflix only had 12 episodes per season. Yeah. Yeah. And it was on every single day for some, if it was like a syndicated cartoon, right? So, it'll be interesting. Would Hasbro do a Ghostbuster and Skibbity Toilet collab? Kids would love that. Hey, maybe. I bet. You never know. You never know. One step closer to an Ecto Glow Ecto One. Again, if I was, they already did the tooling for the Ecto Ones. Yeah, why not? Why not do a Ecto Glow Ecto One? Right? Probably easier than even the Ecto Glow Copter. But between the two, I would want the Ecto Glow Copter. Just saying. Hashtag just saying. Boo Cat, I don't really collect GB, but I want these for my glow in the dark shelf. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. If you have a glow in the dark shelf. Oh my God. Yes. Where are my Ghostbusters Super Soakers? Yes. Right. I mean, as a kid, Super Soakers or any type of like large squirt gun was a Neutrino wand, right? Like I remember the ones that you like, pull, suck in the water and then like shoot it out. Like it was a perfect kind of Neutrino wand. Or there was that, I never had that one, the Super Soaker that was like a backpack and then it had the gun. Like it's perfect. And I know Kenner did the squirt gun Neutrino wand. I had that as a kid as well, but that was so rudimentary. By that point, we had Super Soaker 10, 20, 50, 100, 200. And those, if you had that little Kenner one, it just couldn't hold up to Super Soaker. 100% Super Soakers for sure. That would be amazing. Michael, what are these Skibbity figures I keep hearing about? And also, get off my lawn. I know. It's a thing. They're there. They have like a whole, they had a whole like middle display in my local Target for the Skibbity toilet stuff. Missing an Ecto Glow Slimer opportunity here? Sure, absolutely. But again, who's to say they don't do more stuff? I thought we were done. I thought Hasbro was done doing stuff with Ghostbusters. So cool that they're bringing this. They're giving more, real Ghostbusters love, which I'm going to be in love with no matter what. And I think it's a good thing. Eric Ellman, these are cool and fun. I never knew these existed. I must have already been making out when these came out and totally missed the toilet. I wasn't making out with anybody, but I also completely missed it at the time. And Justin, you're 100% right. Right? Sometimes the SDCC gives whole new lines as exclusives, like Motu Origins. Not sure if Hasbro's ever done that. Mattel's done it a few times. Use SDCC to kind of jumpstart a toy line. You're right. Hasbro, at least to my knowledge, hasn't really done that, but I would be cool with it. I'd be cool with it. So we'll see. But to the point, like it does feel like sometimes Hasbro is, taking the foot off the gas of making toys. So it's cool. I'm glad these are coming out. Let's talk about you're right. These are very echo the Citizens Ghost episode of Real Ghostbusters where the suits from when they fought Gozer have so much ectoplasmic activity or whatever, they kind of form spectral versions of the Ghostbusters. Maybe that's another one they can do, or maybe that's what Mondo could do, right? I think Diamond Select did. I mean, Mattel did it as well, like a Citizens Ghost version. It'd be fun though if they did a Kenner one, because again, you already have that classic Series 1 mold. You just give them the tan suits, glow in the dark heads, hands, and I guess they still had boots. And you're ready to go. The line is down. I would say, unlike Origins, like it does just like a little drip of water in a desert. So Def Quip, you're definitely right. Save your money for Mondo Ecto Glow repaints. Let's talk about kind of the thumbnail of it all, the one that I went with here, which is like, I've seen some comments online, some really dramatic ones. I'm not going to call them out by name, but some people that kind of stake their reputation on having a bunch of vintage things that are valuable, quote unquote, that are kind of miffed that they there is a part of the allure of owning these that is connected to I own it, you don't, right? Personally, I'm like, that's okay. Like if that makes you happy, interesting choice of, an activity in life to make you happy to have something that someone else doesn't. I wouldn't go that route, but if that's what floats your boat, cool, I guess. Good for you. Come on, Jay, go in all those sad comments. Are there sad comments on the Hasbro post? Let's see. It mainly seems like SDCC frustrations. I remember the YHS crew talking about this yesterday, but where the regular heads, the originals came with both. If you didn't know, they're masks, people. They're masks. These they have little masks that they put on their heads. They still have regularly sculpted heads underneath. Well, that sucks. Was looking forward to these. It seems like most people are kind of just pissed that it's a Comic-Con exclusive. My assumption is this will be at Comic-Con. They'll show up on Hasbro Pulse. I don't think it'll be that big of a deal, to be honest. Is Craig here? I didn't catch Toe Anxiety yet. We're sad comments covers. Actually, I didn't make it to sad comments, so I'd assume they kept some sad comments in there. But Craig, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But let's talk about the secondary market price. Okay, so I pulled up just a simple Kenner Ecto Glow list on the old Evil Bay, and these we have a lot of listed by it now prices. And as you can see, even a loosey goosey Egon with no accessories has a list price of $143. Now, we all know we can't just go by listed price, so let's look at sold listings. Otherwise, my collection of Diamond Classic Disney VHSs would be worth a lot more. Oh, damn, a test shot sold? I'd like a test shot. That's pretty dope. But let's see. All right, so one sold for $125, $80 for a proton pack. This one's missing the Ghost 200, but it has the mask, which I would say is the harder thing to find. And the proton pack, is that the right one? I don't think that's the right one for Egon, though. That looks like Peter Venkman's proton pack. That's another fact about this is all the streams are different, just so you know. Okay, Toy Anxiety did cover it last night. Okay, there you go. Beautiful. So, sold listings here. It's a lot of buy it now, so it seems like people are setting the price. Very few people list them for bids. Okay, here you go. Here's one that was a bidded on. It was set of the 4 GBs with no accessories. Had a bid and sold for $400. So in my mind, and this is nuts to me, the complete set, did these have all the accessories for $1,500? No accessories? Oh, okay. Okay, here we go. I was like, no way. All right. All the proton okay. There we go. Hey, look, hey, Craig, it looks like these are mint with card. Just saying. Okay, $1,500 for a complete. They look pretty damn mint with card backs, all the accessories. I assume the ghosties are here as well. All right, that sold for $1,500. So in that instance, I feel like the loosey gooseys are going to come down a little bit. Will they come down a whole lot? I don't think so, because they will be different figures from the vintage ones. And the people that were going after these are purists and they still want vintage, right? Like even on my shelf, and I know I'm an extreme, but I want the originals up there. But for some that don't care, for the people that are casual that are going to want these re-releases, they weren't buying the vintage ones anyway, right? Like out of the total audience, the ones that care about the vintage are still going to care about the vintage and want to buy the vintage. And the ones that didn't care enough to want to spend that ridiculous price for vintage ones anyway are now going to buy the re-releases. I feel like the audiences for these two sets of figures stays the same, if that makes sense. Like the people that really wanted the vintage ones and want to be, you know, to Tollers like a true Ecto Glow elite or whatever, are still going to probably want to stay in that lane. Like maybe you'll shave off 10, 20% of those people. But for the vast majority, I think they're still going to want the vintage ones and are going to still seek them out to buy real vintage ones. There will be differences in the sculpts. There will be differences in the proton packs, because we saw that with the Series 1 releases, and these, I assume, are just re-releases of those or reuses of those toolings that they did. And what's nice is I'll keep, you know, I have a Peter Venkman mint on card. So, you know, I'll do a side-by-side like I did with the first series re-releases. But that being said, you know, it is, I don't think this will affect the secondary market all that much. Where I think it will probably affect it the most on the secondary market prices are these, you know, loosey-gooseys with no accessories, right? Save for Louis Tully, I think he goes up because he's that one you need now. But like this, $100 for a kind of beat up Egon Spengler with no accessories, I don't think those sell for $100 anymore, or they shouldn't, right? Because, you know, someone that wanted this, it's really hard to find a complete one. It's almost easier to buy a carded one and rip it open to have a complete Ecto Glow, because so few of these actually made it into kids' hands back in 1991. So people that bought this are like, well, I at least want the figure. I don't need the whole deal. Those are the people that are going to buy these Comic-Con exclusive sets. And so I see the price of these figures going down. And I think that's that. Dan Clark, I'm gatekeeping, but I wish there was a Kenner Ghostbusters test you had to pass to get these toys. Feels like way too many non-fans will scoop them up the flip. But here's the thing. Like, let's look at the Series 1 re-releases, right? So real Ghostbusters, Kenner Classics. Like, you can get those for $10 a piece all day at toy shows and stuff like that. Let's look at sold prices, or $15. Like, so, and I get it's a Comic-Con exclusive, so that airs a sense of, you know, there's fewer of them than the Kenner Classics got because there were so many. But Ecto 1 is selling for under the original retail price. The first series, they got $12 for a Ray. And you can tell the difference. Like, this is a re-release Stay Puffed. Like, with the figures, you can tell the difference between a vintage one and the re-release one, right? Like, on a shelf, you're probably not going to notice as much, but if you know what to look for, you're going to be able to tell, right? The plastic's different. It's actually thinner, I think. So I get it. I get that feeling. Let's see, Jay, look up the first wave, who you're gonna call. So yeah, they did take out the who you're gonna call on the cards. I did a video about that way back when, of all the different card types. Who you gonna call? Here's a complete set with who you gonna call for $145 sold. Like, that's not, like, these at retail are what, like $15, I think. Oh wait, these don't have who you're gonna call on it. Oh, tisk tisk. You weren't being truthful. Well, this is a Stay Puff with who you're gonna call for $12. This is an actual vintage one. This is a second style release vintage Kenner one. The re-releases were based off of the first card backs. My one drawback to these mint on card, and I've had a set of these mint on card before, is the Egon and the Winston have the plastic cancer. You can actually even see it on this card example in his face. like his flesh tone, like it's completely losing. It just looks like he's almost the same color as like blonde hair. So getting those mint on card, even if you have them nice and minty in the card, you might start to see little dots on both Winston and Egon, and their face plastic is kind of losing the color as well. It seems only the first series release keeps its color well and doesn't get the plastic cancer. So anyway, there'll be ways to tell the difference. I will say, and so if people that may be upset that the value is ruined, I don't think it's going to be that bad. I think it'll be okay. Where you see the prices go down is probably for the loosey-gooseys. They don't have any accessories, but you just want an Ecto Glow figure. That I see going down. And then what goes up, it's Louis Tully. Because I'd be shocked if they get into Louis Tully. Because that would require a whole new tooling. And I don't know if they see enough value in having a Louis Tully action figure. Sorry, Louis Tully. But he's fun. He's got was it the weenie? What is it called? Meanie Weenie Ghost that originally came with Winston in the Super Fight Features toy line, if I remember correctly. And then the Louis is, again, reusing the mold from Power Pack Heroes that was then reused in Slimed Heroes and then brought back for the last time here. And then he has a unique Proton Pack Stream that attaches to the Meanie Weenie. So that'll go up. Trust me, I've got a sealed shipper case of the Who You're Gonna Call. I've got loose, like, still in box Who You're Gonna Call. I've got plenty. I bought way too many of those damn things. Cause I got a problem with buying shit I don't need. I did not expect I would learn about plastic cancer today, and I'm with Transformers 2 and GPS and all that. Yeah, I mean, it's a thing. It happens. But I find it happens kind of in the like later 80s, like 87, like 88 figures, maybe 1988 specifically, which is really weird, very specific, or 87. Because like King Randor from Motu gets the plastic cancer on his legs. LJN Thundercats, which was like 87, 88. Some of the later figures have plastic cancer problems. And then those later, like slightly later releases for the first series, Ghostbusters, have plastic cancer issues. I think there's just something of the plastic they were using in that time that it gets those little dots. And if you all won't mind me getting up for a second, I think I have. Do I not have her out? I guess, yeah, I don't have any close by with plastic cancer. But anyway, it's just little brown or black dots starts to show up all over the figure. And exactly, plastic does just break down over time. There's nothing you can do about it, But I will say there are some plastics that hold together better than others. But there is something to like 87, 88 that I have found that lighter color plastics in that range seem to have the issue the most, more than others. So I've seen it but never heard that term. It's I feel like this was more. I feel like we've talked about it on this show before. It's the thing. It's usually the softer plastic, for sure. The softer plastic. I thought I had Bengali is a big one that gets it from Thundercats, and I thought I had her, and she had. I sold my King Randor, my vintage King Randor. He had his legs had it on mine. Usually I try to avoid having figures in my collection that display that or show that. Anyway. That's it. That's all I got. Thank you for coming to hang out and talk about this. Again, go watch the Toy Anxiety Extreme. They talked about it a bit yesterday. I'm sure we'll talk about it more on Sunday's live stream. But for one, I'm really excited for those that have wanted these, and now you get to have them. And yeah, I'm pumped. I hope there's more. I hope this is just like a little blip and that's it. I hope this is the sign of more things to come. And on that note, thank you so much for hanging out. Again, hanging out on Sunday night, live stream. I got a couple of videos in the works right now, so stay tuned to the channel. Make sure you hit subscribe and the bell so you don't miss it. And until next time, hasta luego, and goodbye. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.